just so we can hop back easily if there's any questions through the different slides. So I will attempt to share my screen here. Okay, Taylor, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we have an emergency platform called the Centurion Elite. We've been around for over 20 years. I've been with the company for 18, done a lot of really unique and really exciting projects through the years. We kind of got our start with putting panic buttons in courthouses, with working side by side with sheriff's departments and law enforcement. When you press a panic button, it immediately alerted over radio. There was no quicker way to get to that bailiff outside the courtroom than to go to his radio. And that was big, you know, close to 20 years ago. And from there, we have a large market in the hospital, education through the years. And now really on the upside and the upswing is manufacturing market, private companies as well. Because, you know, this state of the matter is you know, we receive a lot of threats now, and no place is safe, a lot of soft spots, and how are you going to protect it outside and also internally. So we're going to kind of go high level. I know there's some people on the call that, you know, are, you know, in different types of markets. So I guess I'll start out with saying this is more of a high level, but hopefully you'll come away with some questions and some things that will you will take a deeper dive into it. So this platform, the Centurion Elite, it covers a multiple different emergency solutions, well past these actually. But active shooter is kind of our number one kind of talking point, if you will, with panic alarms, wireless panic alarms, or computer-based panic alarms, also gunshot detection sensors. And we also do door monitoring, access control. And, you know, these might not necessarily be on your facilities. You might have access control and maybe through IPS, but these could be more strategic areas. What about your IT closets, HVAC rooms, roof access, those types of things? Environmental sensors, from temperature to chemical detection, alerting staff that are over top of those areas. Intrusion, integration in with existing security equipment as well. So what the Centurion Elite does is when utilizing the wireless sensors, we program on the manufacturing side each individual sensor to say who gets that message. Is it plant managers? Is it police? And what does it say? What makes sense to law enforcement? What makes sense to a plant manager or internal staff to make you know, emergency situations quicker, easier, and you know, evacuation or lockdown kind of things. With those alerts, we can send them a multitude of different ways: email, text, two-way radio, pop up on computer screens, lock doors for your existing access control systems, and stuff of that nature. The wireless sensors, we use Innovonics. Innovonics has been around for a very, very long time, a trusted manufacturer as far as emergencies, you know, throughout any type of building, from hospital through radiation departments, elevators, and they're, you know, and not interfering with existing security equipment. They are monitored by our system every couple minutes. In the event that there's a low battery after 5 years, somebody is alerted of that. There's also, you know, tamper or missing and stuff like that as far as supervisory alerts as well. So that's on the wireless side. We can also make a computer address button. This is a simple approach. Maybe you have a staff member that's sitting at a computer in the front, and less maybe conspicuous as activating a address button underneath a desk or something like that. We can activate by a keystroke combination on the keyboard, or an icon on the computer screen to drive those outputs. So to drive going out over police radio, internal radio, text, email, computer pop-up. Any questions at this point, Taylor?
Let me check our chat box here. I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet. Does anyone have any questions before we move on?
Okay. Okay.
I think you're good. Keep going.
So this product here is a GPS panic alarm. This is one of our newer products, and it honestly, it really has the wow factor. This is a GPS panic alarm that in most cases, we utilize it for elected officials who receive threats that maybe they're protected in their place of business, in their government building. But what about when they go out into the parking lot, when they go out to their homes? Is their family protected? Also, domestic violence victims, workplace violence that you might experience where an employee has an incident going on. This is a button that might be in your desk drawer. Hopefully it's in your desk drawer for years and years, but in the event that there is an active threat on you in your facility, you can hand out this panic alarm. It has a QR code on the back side of it that you scan to a person's cell phone. And when activated, it sends that location specific message across, radio, email, text, but the email and text will have a GPS location to it. And to make it a little simpler, I activated my button just before we came into this meeting. Here is an immediate notification where I'm at. If I am on the move, it will update every 5 seconds with kind of a breadcrumb trail. I activate it on the way to work about every day, and I could see my traffic patterns when I slow down and when I speed up. It's that accurate. So, think about, school buses and transport vehicles, but also people who receive threats within your place of business as well.
Hey, Brent.
Yeah.
Hey, good morning, Brent. Hey,
Hey, Tim.
The Centurion Anywhere, is that really a button, that white looking like access control credential?
Yeah, good question. There's a lot of apps out there, and we researched them for many, many years, even when they were first coming out. The problem with apps is, in a heightened situation, you're going to have to remember to Face ID, remember your password to unlock your phone and scroll through a bunch of apps just to hit an app and probably type in information or hit the right button. A lot of those have medical, panic, gunshot, a lot of different buttons, when probably you should be calling 911 instead of those 10 steps. Instead, we came out with a physical duress button. Mine actually that I carry around with me is on the back side of my phone. I always have it attached. It's just a simple kind of a credit card attached back side of my phone. I wear it in my jeans pocket. My kids carry around with them. It's not activated. It takes a full 2-second press to activate it, but it's a physical button press. Way easier in a panic situation to activate than a mobile than an app.
Okay. So, I mean, you could come up with any endless kind of possibilities, right? Let's say someone on a school board's getting threatening message or something like that, and the school board wanted to provide them this panic button. They could do so.
Yeah, that's right, Tim. And thinking about that school, if we want to talk a little bit about Rockburn and the work that we did there, not only the Jewish community where hate crimes are occurring and stuff like that, where not only are we adding panic alarms to go to law enforcement in their internal school radios, but also monitoring their outside doors with wireless devices. So in the event that a door has been propped open for 5 minutes, I think it is, somebody internally is alerted of that. We can also integrate in with their camera system to say, it was faculty member so-and-so we need to go yell at them. That's big, and that project was before Uvalde. And you see those how those incidences occur with you got to lock the outside of your building before you really add panic alarms to it. So, and they also have GPS panic alarms because of those hate crimes that happen outside of the building or a bus pickup area, drop-off areas, stuff like that. We utilize them a lot too with field trips. Colleges that have vans that go out and stuff like that too. There's just a ton of uses for it. It's a very cost effective to add it to the system. And, like I said before, it could be something that stays in a desk drawer and brings out during those situations.
From a technology standpoint, it looks like perhaps on your next slide, you're going to kind of explain the system architecture or how everything connects there, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. For those of you who could see me on the screen, I can activate my duress button just here, and just for simple purposes, I will. And basically, I got a message that popped up on my phone. It vibrated, and that is important in the fact that it's a completely silent alarm, but my phone buzzed in the fact that somebody's on their way. So I already received the text message. The text message just looks like this. It says, alarm activated. If I click on that link, you're going to see a map that pulls up automatically. No delay in receiving it. That's the satellite view of it. But, just an immediate notification. Now, since I'm in the same area, since I'm locked in my home or my place of business, I'm going to get an update every 10 minutes until I clear the alarm. The only time there's an app running in the background, the only time that I have to use that app is to clear the alarm. So we want that app to be live if for some reason I'm on the move outside of my home, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so the app, so the button is communicating with the Centurion Elite, right? That's the connection, and it's somehow piggybacking off of your phone's GPS to know where you're at then?
Yeah, that GPS button connects to the phone. Okay. And the phone, basically that ID goes to the Centurion Elite and, okay, and knows that it's Brent's panic alarm that's been activated.
Okay. Okay.
It's using the phone for GPS.
Okay.
Yeah. So we kind of discussed the different radio or different communication outputs. Radio is a big player. Radio is one of the reasons we've been around a long time. You're seeing it a lot more in places of business where this is the best communication route rather than cell phones, and more so in the fact that it's now more of a widespread area rather than just walkie-talkies in, say, one particular school building, but now district-wide. We can support up to 3 radios inside of the system. It's actually more than that, and I'll get into that here in a second. But 3 radios. So in the example, let's just say a school market, city police radio, county sheriff's radio, and internal school radio. That's 3 different radios all going off at one time. But then it's also dialing phone numbers, email and texting whoever, no limit on that, and also popping up on every computer screen inside of your place of business. How that comes into play and why that is so important now is you look at a Parkland, Florida, and I bring up the school emergencies because they're publicized and a lot of people know the stories behind them. But the Parkland, Florida incident, shots were fired on the 9th grade freshman building. The 2nd and 3rd floor were evacuating toward shots being fired. If we were able to integrate in with their PA system, popping up on every computer screen on that 2nd and 3rd floor to say shots fired on 1st floor, they would have locked down. So very, very important that you're doing an all call. And this could also go to your other businesses, maybe your campus base, or maybe you have a business that's a mile or 2 away. Instead of somebody remembering in a panic situation to pick up the phone to say, hey, we have an incident at plant A, we need to shut down plant B, especially if it's a hate crime or something like that, or employees are coming from one building to the next, this is an all call for you. So Centurion Gateway and Envoy is how we have one single Centurion Elite to support multiple different buildings. With Gateway, it leverages the internal network of your place of business and leverages right back to the Centurion Elite. So panic alarms that's activated on plant B, those have their own unique message, their own group of people that they go to. And this is all set up beforehand before we come to do installation. So when we install, everything can remain in place. The place of business is still operational during that time because we're putting in wireless sensors that have already been pre-programmed. Centurion Envoy, the only difference with this is it supports local radio or integration. So if you have a separate camera system or a separate access control system that we want to integrate in with to say when gunshot is being activated, we want to lock those doors. If that's only individual to that building, we use Centurion Envoy because that has that integration capability or supports local radio if that radio is not a company-wide, building-wide type of system. So, you know, in the sense that one Centurion Elite can support a city or even statewide throughout the entire country with one single system. So I highlighted just a little bit right in the beginning about active shooter events. You know, obviously we have a lot of different styles of duress buttons from under the desk, computer-based. We're doing a lot where there's mushroom style panic alarms in hallways now. Those can be a lot of different ways with, you know, hovers on them, sirens on them. Think fire pull stations and stuff like that, that kind of look. A lot of different styles. So whatever you guys envision is basically we can integrate in with and make it completely wireless as well. Now the gunshot detection sensors is something else that we've researched for many, many years. It's really only been in the market for, let's just say 5 years. It's a cheaper product than it was 5 years ago and a lot more reliable. What we partnered up with was a gunshot detection sensor that is a two-factor authentication, which is popular and really the only way to go is, but the uniqueness of it is it's not only sound, but air pressure change. Air pressure change is unique in the fact that I can go around a corner and still pick up that air pressure change from that shot being fired. Whereas the other sensors out there on the market are infrared. So think about your remote control on your TV. If you go around the corner, you're not going to change your channel. Same thing with infrared. So in a crowded hallway or around a corner, you have to have a lot more of those sensors to support that area. Also, all of the gunshot detection systems out there are only gunshot. So they're not gunshot, panic, door, temperature, and stuff like that on one single system, especially over a large geographic area, one single system too. If interested in gunshot detection, we would just look at building drawings and stuff like that, and a little bit of the makeup of the building. The range on these on our gunshot sensors are better than anything out there on the market. We do it by cubic volume. It's 50 by 50 by 25 cubic volume. So if you have a 12-foot ceiling, it goes out about 100 feet in each way. We've done extensive testing inside of a lot of different buildings, but for an example, a gymnasium, a basketball court, we can go almost full court, let's say 3/4 of the court just with one single sensor. So we support an entire gymnasium basically with 2 sensors. Entry and exit monitoring. We're seeing a lot more of this, and obviously with the recent events, doors being propped open. Now, you probably have some access control systems like, some of these places where active shooter events have occurred. My thinking is Colorado theater shooting, where they're not being notified of a prop door, even though they have access control. We put a simple device on there, so when a door has been propped open, it alerts somebody on staff. typically by radio, text, email, all outputs. We can also link that camera that's associated pointing to that door on that so you can see a live feed of who's going through the door. Also think about your AED defibrillator areas. In the event that a defibrillator has been activated, anybody trained on CPR in that building can be notified of that rather than dialing, well, also dialing 911, but 911 might be sitting 10, 15 minutes out when there's people right down the hallway that's been trained on CPR. We've also put them on first aid stations, eye wash stations as well. With a simple dry contact now, anybody who goes to that eye wash station or gets in a medical cabinet, somebody is being notified of that. Environmental and facility monitoring. So temperature monitoring in freezers, refrigerators, IT rooms, HVAC rooms. In the event that one gets too hot, too cold, maybe it's water detection. Plant managers are notified of that. And also we have power outage detection. We've also integrated in with existing machinery. So if one machine breaks, you don't, it's being notified to the plant managers before those other machines go down. This is something that you could put a price tag on. If a machine goes down, that's the cost associated with a business to keep it running. So now you're immediately notified of that machine or something like that. But very simple device. It is monitored too for battery life and tampering and all that stuff. But we do a lot of this and it gets utilized a lot in those manufacturers daily. For any of the property managers out there, I added this slide just in the fact that this is a portable alarm that can be tied to that main Centurion Elite box. So if you have a construction site going on, you're you have a off-site place of business or a routine burglary that you kind of want to protect. A portable alarm, this has a cellular router inside of it, so you could put door contacts and trip wires and all kinds of stuff like that. And when activated in that remote area, it's sending messages out, radio, text, email, those types of things with that. You can float this around into other areas. So the next construction site, you move it on. Law enforcement use this. Tattletale is another big one that you might have heard of. They use it all the time with routine crime, break-in areas from the construction site and just places of business that are in a bad part of town or something like that. Any questions or anything like that?
There's nothing in the chat. Does anyone have anything they want to ask right now? You can hop on your mic or type it in.
Taylor, I'll just chime in here real quick.
Sure.
When we talk to customers and prospects, we know that they have a lot of concerns, right? Violence in the workplace, big concern. And then we can have conversations about using technology. And I think for three broad applications, what can we do to prevent, to deter situations from arising? What do you do to respond? And kind of the last then is really detection, right? So if you think about it, deterrence or prevention, detection when something happens, and then your response. And the Centurion Elite system really can touch in all three of those areas, right? We talk about prevention. Door propped open is it should be a cause for concern in a lot of places. So here's the ability to apply technology in a preventative manner, right? We talk about detection, right? So there's something bad that's happened. There's an event that's happened, whether it's an automated detector such as a gunshot detector, whether it's, you know, an environmental, right? It's too hot in the room, right? Or it's too wet in the room, or, you know, something that requires a person to intervene. So a panic button, right? We've got ways to detect an event is happening. And then the response, and I think that's so critical that, you know, now we can have a plan. So whether we need to notify certain individuals via text message, other parties need to get a different message, maybe through a different medium, i.e. law enforcement on their radios. And there's probably other parties that we want to connect with for other reasons with other messages. You know, the locking down of a facility, if that's an appropriate action, we can start automating these things. So I think when you really step back and want to evaluate kind of those three categories, how can I apply technology, right? Prevention, detection, and then response. Boy, this is a system that you know could offer, you know, solutions in really each one of those. So we're really excited about it. We installed it in a local school, a Jewish community school. It has about 50 panic buttons installed into it. Plus it has a bunch of door prop sensors. So we start thinking about one of the weak, you know, spots for a school are all these many doors, right? There's just a lot of ways to get into a school. School should be a fun place. Kids should be able to go out to the playground, right? You're going to have deliveries come in another place. Your teachers might come in a back door. There's just a lot of ways to get into school. You want to protect that. So they've got a bunch of door sensors set up. We've also got panic buttons just, you know, deployed in a bunch of different areas. So that if a teacher needs assistance, they've got the ability to, you know, immediately request it. So we're real excited about that install. It's a relatively new install for us here. And so far, so good with it. So we really appreciate the partnership that we have with Response Technologies.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And this is also, you know, not only for new emergency solutions, but also enhancing communication outputs with existing. For example, fire alarms that you guys know very well. But if we can integrate in with it with that Centurion Elite to go over the local radio that the place of business is burning down, or texting, emailing the CEO that their place of business is burning down, it's enhancing those communication outputs. So the fire alarm does everything that it needs to do, but wouldn't it be nice to text? Wouldn't it be nice for radio? So that's a little bit of an example with fire, but we also do it with ammonia detection and cold food manufacturing, where they have those systems in place. But wouldn't it be nice to say, you know, evacuate the building, sirens, strobes, enhancing communication output with existing equipment?
I was muted. Are there any final thoughts or questions out there before we close out today's presentation? And it was a lot of information, and as you kind of heard, this is a highly customizable system. So I'll follow up with everyone with some information. And as you start thinking about the product, if you want a one-on-one with IPS and Response Technologies, we are more than happy to do that, because each situation is unique, and we can apply this solution to a variety of applications. So just think on that. And then I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. So with that, I will wish everyone a good rest of their morning and Wednesday. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.